Hello, this is Mr. Frank and welcome to Learning Target 10D. I can interpret data and create a bar graph and histogram. So here's where we are in the unit. We're almost towards the end. One more learning target to go before we get a review and a summative. So let's talk about what a bar graph is and what a histogram is. So here's a bar graph. What kind of pet do you own is the question on this bar graph. And you can see that there are 5 different categories here. Now, each category is displayed on its own. So we see only rabbits here, and you can look to the left to see the y-axis or the vertical axis measures the number of people who own each type of pet. So you can see here are rabbits, and there are 4 people who own rabbits. For dogs, it would be 8 people. It's a pretty small sample set here, but this was the survey that was done. Cats, 11 people, and goldfish, 6 people. So you can see the bar graph displays the data where each category is its own bar. Now a histogram, on the other hand, a histogram shows the frequency of data, and the data is grouped into equal intervals. So here you can see we have intervals for a test score. The test score can be anywhere from 0 to 100, and each interval is 20 points. With a histogram, the intervals, or the amount between each of these marks, has to be equal. So this red bar measures all of the people who scored between a 0 and a 20. So that looks like 3 people. Whereas this blue bar measures everyone who scored between an 80 and a 100. So we'd see the height here, and that looks like 22 to me. So the big differences are the categories in a bar graph are distinct. Everything here is a rabbit, and we know it's a rabbit, whereas here we just know it's a range. It's grouped in an interval, in this case 0 through 20. So it tells us different types of information. So let's go into bar graph a little deeper. So here, let's answer some questions. How many people own a goldfish? So we find the goldfish category, and then we move over to the axes over here, the vertical axes, and we see that it's 6. So we get 6 people owning a goldfish. How about how many more people own a cat than a dog? So now what we need to do is figure out how many people own a cat, and then subtract how many people own a dog. So I would get 11 minus 8, and that would be 3 people. Now, let's order the pets from greatest ownership to least. So we're going to start with the highest bar. The highest bar is cat. What's the next highest bar? So that would be dog. And then we get goldfish, hamster, and then rabbit would be last. So that would be our order from greatest ownership by pet to least. So those are some ways that we can read a bar graph. And bar graphs can also show different populations. So look here. This bar graph is showing girls and boys. So now each category doesn't just have 1 bar, but it has 2 bars. One for boys, one for girls, I should say, and one for boys. Girls are in red, boys are in blue. So I can see that in terms of participating in camp activities, there were 30 girl campers who played tennis and 25 boy campers who played tennis. And you can see that there are different amounts for each: tennis, swimming, canoeing, and crafts. And this bar graph captures the total activities for girls and boys. So now let's talk about making a bar graph. We want to organize the data in different populations. So this is what a typical organization would look like. I would have all of my categories. The colors are my categories here: red, green, blue, purple, and orange. And here I can see how many boys have red as their favorite color, how many girls have red as their favorite color, and I have each that information for each of the colors. So now what I want to do is, once I have my table filled out, I want to put my categories on the horizontal axis, and I want to put my numbers on the vertical axis. So this is what it looks like. You see my categories? I have red, green, blue, purple, and orange, just like here. I just took my categories. And then I have my numbers on the vertical axis, and I make sure it's high enough to cover whatever the biggest number is here. So the biggest number is 23, so I'm going to go up to 25 because I want to make sure that my axis goes at least as high as the biggest number. And then what I want to do is I want to mark off each bar on the graph, and I'll use different colors for different populations. So if we see 20 boys, like red, I want my bar for boys to come right up to here, and let's see, oh, and it does, look at that. The bar comes right up to there, 20 boys, and 12 girls, their favorite color is red, it comes right up to there. So I would mark off how high each bar should be. So green for boys would be 14. You can see right there would be 14. And then I would color in below it, try and be neat, try and keep it in a bar. And that's how we create a bar graph. Now let's analyze a bar graph. You're going to do this on your own. So here's a problem. 100 boys and 100 girls in a dance school were surveyed about their hobbies. They were asked if they like or dislike participating in 5 different activities. And this bar chart below shows the data. So I want you to answer who likes studying more, either boys or girls, which activity received the same number of likes by boys or girls. So here are your activities, so that one of those will be your answer. Who likes playing games more? So look under games. And overall, which is the least popular activity? So figure out which activity is least popular. So pause here, and you'll answer those questions and then come back. All right, welcome back. So bring those answers back to class tomorrow. And now we're going to talk about histograms a little bit more. So here's a histogram. Remember, the histogram is showing a range of data, an interval of data here. So all of these people here represent scores between 0 and 20. So let's ask ourselves some questions. How many students took the test? Well, for this, we need to figure out how many students scored in each interval. So here, this red bar looks like that's 3 students. This one here, I think that's 9. If you do it for each one, that's 20. And if you do it for green, I think that looks like 39. It comes right below 40. And the blue one, if you move it over, it feels like 22. Your numbers might be 1 off from mine, and that would be okay. This one's hard to read. But then I would add up each of the numbers which show how many people are in each interval. So to get my total, I have to add up all of the people across the intervals. So how many students scored more than a 60? Well, I know here's the cutoff for 60, so all the students in green and blue scored more than 60, so that's the 39 and the 22, so that's going to be 61 students. And then how many students scored exactly a 75? So here would be 75, but we can't tell what a student exactly scored. We only know the range of scores within this, for this interval. We don't know exactly 75. So we don't know that answer. So don't get tricked. There's sometimes you don't know exact information in a histogram. So now you take a turn on analyzing a histogram. So the accompanying histogram shows the height distribution for students in a high school math class. Which interval has the highest frequency? So frequency would be the most. Think about it as the most. How many students are 161 centimeters tall? Now that's asking exactly 161 centimeters tall. So think back to what I said on the last slide. How many students are in math class? So here you're going to have to count up each interval. And how many students are 171 centimeters or taller? This one you can get a number for. So make sure you figure that out. So pause here and come back once you've answered those questions. All right, welcome back. So bring those back tomorrow for class, and we'll go over those. And as always, please capture what you learned or were reminded of, and any questions that you have. I hope you enjoyed the video.